To the November 4th meeting of the Mashpee Board of Sewer Commissioners. Today we have with us Meredith Harris, Joe Lyons, Mike Rapaz, Ann Malone, Ken Dunn, and Al Taub. We're holding the meeting in the Wacoit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall. Before we get started, could we please all stand and pledge allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Katrina, who is no longer with us, got us minutes to the October 1st and October 7th meetings. So I'd like to ask for approval of those minutes.
Mike, I actually, when I typed the agenda, it had October 1st, October 7th agenda, and September 21st minutes. So that
Okay.
should actually be September 21st and October 1st minutes.
Okay.
My bad.
Where are they posted?
They're not yet.
Okay, after they're
They
approved,
will
they're
be once
posted?
they're approved.
Yes.
Okay. Can we vote on approval?
I'll make a motion.
Second? Okay. Meredith? Yep.
Yes.
Yes? Joe?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And we have a lady from Summerwood who has some questions, and I think we will.
Maybe, I'm not sure. I feel like I'm kind of late to the game, but obviously this is going to totally affect us. So we have a meeting on Tuesday with Mr. Gallagher
Right.
for our complex, and I just wanted to get some maybe preemptive information. And, you know, there's just a lot going on, and we're kind of caught in the middle of all of it.
Okay, we will give you a couple minutes. If you could come to the podium, though, and give us your name, please.
My name's Marion Klausner. I'm a unit owner, a bank owner, anyway, of one of the units at Summerwood. And we knew this was coming, but it's also coming pretty quickly. And so I wanted to get some information before our meeting with Mr. Gallagher on Tuesday, just so I'm as informed as I can be, having to make these big decisions on cost and what it's going to cost us and everything like that.
Chris, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, I sent out a flyer, and I think I discovered afterwards that I guess apparently mail goes from Mashpee Post Office to Providence.
Yeah,
and back to Mashpee.
I think it's actually sitting in my mailbox now because I
So
get a little thing.
it's been like
But
a
our
week.
trust company sent out the little
Yeah,
proposal letter.
I talked to the trust, and I didn't realize there's an email, Summerwood has an email that notifies every residence. And so from now on, that's the way I'm going to contact you instead of trying to go to US
Well,
Mail.
mail's always good because then you have a concrete, not every
I'll give
resident
you a-
has access
I'll
to
give you
email.
a brief thing on what we plan on doing. And the meeting Tuesday is going to be, I know there's been a lot of rumors and different things going around, misinformation.
That's one of the reasons I'm
just trying
here.
to clear it up for everybody
Yeah.
on Tuesday. I was supposed to go, but I got inconvenienced with a few
Right.
artifacts.
Are you Mr.
so-
Gallagher?
Yes.
Oh, well, nice to
So
meet you.
I couldn't make that Saturday
Right,
meeting.
right.
So basically, you know, what we're doing as a town is trying to clean up our waterways.
Yeah, I absolutely understand.
You know, Summerwood's had, you know, years of history in septic failure. I'm not really up to speed on it. I just know they've had issues. The sewer system would solve their issues. And
Absolutely.
so behind Summerwood is Mashpee River, and that's a very sensitive spot, and that's what this first phase is kind of attacking. And so for us to go onto private land, by law, typically they put a stub to your land and you're responsible from there on, whether it be a single-family home or entire condo
Right.
complex or apartments. We can actually go onto private land for the public good, which is the nitrogen removal. So what we're trying to do is do this in a friendly fashion with everyone. and get everyone on board. So there's a couple options. We could put a stub there and let you deal with the problem.
Right,
But the way we're proposing it is we do all the engineering design, all the permits.
right.
We
Yeah, I read the
pick
proposal. I
up
mean,
the
it's pretty
cost of-
reasonable,
Yeah, we
right,
pick up the cost of the pump station, which is about $1 million or better.
right,
You know, we'd want an easement over the property, similar to when you had the water line put in.
Yes,
They
I read
took a
that,
blanket
actually,
easement
yeah.
over the property. But we put the pump station in, and I'm gonna locate it in such a way, I'm gonna try to do it accessing off 28, and it's submersible pumps. I'm gonna try to get some pictures for Tuesday night, so you can see what's actually gonna look like. We'd put all the pipes in the roads. That would be the response, that would be paid back through betterments. But what we're doing is, we're getting a zero-interest
Yeah.
loan. We can charge up to 2% over what we're getting for a loan. We don't have to, so we're gonna charge 0%. We also have the Cape, like Wastewater Trust, I don't remember the exact name. but
right,
They're paying 25% of our project cost, giving us back to us out of the 54 million. If we spend it, they'll give us back 1/4 of that in 4 years. So we're taking that off the cost. So you're gonna pay 75% of the actual cost divided amongst all the homeowners,
the actual cost of it coming to us.
Just the pipes.
Us,
all the pipes.
not the rest of Mashpee.
No, just the pipes in Summerwood itself.
Right,
We'll leave a service for each building. Your responsibility will be to tie
Right.
it in. Some of those buildings have multiple manholes. There may be
Right.
one service for 4 buildings.
right,
But you're responsible just for the tie-in and whatever tie-in fees there could be. The cost estimate, which I'll say on Tuesday, is it's been estimated the piping cost is about $1.5 million. And you divide that over 117 people and take 25% off, it comes out to about $300 to $350 a year over the 30 years.
right.
And $350, 20 years from now, is worth about $50. You're getting
Right.
zero interest for the whole course of the loan.
Right.
So
Is
that's-
that unit-based or like like owner-based that, so like if I have my unit and I decide to sell in 3 or 4 years, would the new owner assume that or
No,
is
what
that-
happens is that goes on your tax bill as a lien.
Okay.
So if you sell your building, that lien has to be paid in full.
If I sell my unit, I
Sell
have to
your
pay
unit.
the lien.
You
So
have
it
to
falls
pay
on
your
me,
lien.
not the
Yeah.
next owner.
It
Okay.
comes on your tax bill, and when you sell, you gotta get a clean municipal lien certificate, so that will be on it. And water bill, sewer
Yeah,
bill,
yeah.
tax bill, so you gotta clear it of all liens when you
Okay.
close.
My other question, just because I meant to look at some paperwork before I came, but we're already paying a bit of a tax increase to fund this, right? Like, I mean, wasn't a 3% tax increase approved like a year ago, 2 years ago that we're paying, or?
No,
Not us as Summerwood, I'm saying in Mashpee overall.
No,
No.
no,
Like,
there's,
none of this was approved as any kind of funded through
It
tax.
was all approved, but it's.
No, I know,
it's paid otherwise. It's not a tax assessment on any Mashpee
Okay,
resident.
so how, okay, I guess I have to look, because the taxes have gone up in Mashpee, like about 3%, and when I last looked, part of it was that Phase 1 of the sewer project, not all funded, obviously, but there was gonna be, some of that was toward the funding of the Phase 1 sewer project, so,
Plus, what happens every year, and I'm putting on my old assessor's hat, Prop 2.5 allows a town to go up 2.5% a year.
yeah, I mean, it was fine, like I said, I didn't get a
That's-
chance to actually
Every
look at.
town does the 2.5%.
I feel like, I'm not speaking for obviously all of Summerwood, but being involved and kind of watching this occur in the last 6 months, even though, yes, we should have been on top of it, I think many of the homeowners there in Summerwood right now feel like, oh no, it's coming at us right now, we have to deal with it right now, and so there's definitely a sense of,
No, the betterment's
Yeah.
not gonna happen for 2 or 3 years.
right, but we would have to sign and start paying for it beforehand,
No,
or
no, no.
Okay.
What
well, that's
happens
good
is,
to know.
once the project is completed, we come
Gotcha.
up with the exact number.
Okay,
And depending on what the exact number is, that's what you divide
Okay.
up.
all right,
But that's not gonna happen until the plant
Yeah.
goes up online
Right.
and the project's declared complete.
Are other, just out of curiosity, are other condominium communities going to have to do the same thing and get like a pumping station on, like, I live right down from Sea Oaks, obviously, so
Sea Oaks is gonna have to
they're
do
gonna
the
have to
same
do
thing.
kind of the same thing, so I
Yeah.
was just curious if we
Yeah.
were like the only ones. Okay,
No, this is, in fact, tonight, we're going over a standard operating procedure that
right,
the commission's either gonna adopt or amend and adopt, probably.
okay,
And that's gonna be how we handle condos now.
right.
So right now, it's just focused on Sea Oaks and Summer with the two projects.
Right, I think we're the ones in
And
phase
I
one. right.
included this
That's
in the
right.
mailing.
Okay.
So I included it in the mail, and I tried to be as clear as possible.
Yeah, it's very clear, like I
You know.
said, and I just came today to kind of just wrap my brain
Yeah.
around it in a physical sense versus a lot of emails. There's been a lot of information. Obviously, there is some issues from some back failings that we've had, so there are actually
Yeah.
owners in Summerwood that are looking at hiring a private attorney to look, like, it's a bigger mess for us personally at Summerwood,
We know.
No.
but we still have to deal with the problem at hand, so I just am here to basically just gather more information for myself, so.
I mean, although I'm sympathetic to a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be up for topics for
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah, no,
on Tuesday.
absolutely. That's,
I don't want to
you know,
sidebar, I just wanna stick
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
what this is and try to
well,
get
regardless
everyone
of
on
any of
board.
that, this still has to be dealt with, so.
Yeah, and I just want to get everyone understanding what it is we're putting in writing and get everyone on board and get all whatever rumors or anything out of
Right.
there and just get the facts.
Sounds good.
That's the plan.
All right, well, thank
Okay.
you. I look forward to seeing you on
Okay,
Tuesday.
thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we have gentlemen here who are interested in the outside project manager positions, and they are prepared with a show and tell slideshow.
Just, I want to introduce this is people I've had a long-standing relationship with, you know, professionally, and worked on a lot of projects with, water, sewer, treatment plant type of thing. And I think it would be a nice, very smooth transition. There was one other person that couldn't make it, who's actually oversaw all my sewer projects when I was in Rainham. And I think it was like 6 pump stations and over 10 miles of sewer. And he's a boots on the ground, you know, construction type guy, but he's very intelligent, very competent. That's Bruce Dyer, he's not here. And this is Ziad Carey on the right and Andrew Grotto on the left. They're both from Environmental Partners. But we worked on a lot of jobs together. They've done a lot more. They've been around, I don't know, 20 years or so. But, you know, I'm hoping to, you know, bring them in immediately to get on the review of the plant drawings, because I'm thinking, I mean, look what I did on the collection system drawings. So I needed people with expertise to go over the plant drawings, and I think whatever it costs, it's gonna be well worth a second set of eyes to get started on that. But I'll let Ziad tell you about his company, what projects they've done, and I guess field any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having us here today. So the thought would be to just introduce ourselves, and we have a very short presentation. We're not going to take a lot of your time. We thought maybe run over some of the projects that we've been working with for the last several years, kind of give you a flavor of what our capabilities are going to be. And, you know, hopefully we could be able to work with you. Oops. It's not even exiting.
You might have to get Andrew up there.
Down to your right. Down to your right.
Oh,
on the white
this little
band.
button here. Can you click
Right
the arrow?
there. Up now.
Yeah,
right
just right there.
Should move you forward one slide.
It's not moving.
Nothing happened.
Oh, Dave Delvecchio just set this up.
Let me just unplug it and try to plug it back in. Maybe that would do the trick, hopefully.
Kind of heartening that that's their best approach. Just what I would do.
So it was moving here on the
I've got a
laptop.
6-year-old that helps me.
Ah,
That's what you need.
Technical difficulties.
all right.
There you go. Okay, so you should be.
So I
using
gotta
zeros
use
now.
the, or you can take this way.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so EP, Environmental Partners Group, we're an Apex company. We're about 80 people today, basically headquarters in Quincy, Massachusetts. I've been with the company for 16 years. We have numerous projects, kind of award-winning projects that I could describe some of them, but the interest of time, we'll skip that. We have 4 offices in Massachusetts. The biggest office is in Quincy. Today, Andrew and I were in Hyannis. We have an Hyannis office. That's where we came out of this morning. We have a Woburn office that probably houses about 30 people, and Middleton, Connecticut, probably about the same thing. So again, the company was formed back in 1997. This is the 24th, 25th year in the business. When I joined the company, we were about 16 people. Today, we're about 80. Some of the stuff that we do, primarily bread and butter, is water and wastewater. We provide civil engineering services, a lot of construction management. As a matter of fact, in addition to the 80 people, we have 15 folks out in the field that kind of oversee construction and construction management. We do a lot of drinking water, work quite a bit with the SRF program on both water and wastewater. We do emergency management. We actually responded to the Merrimack Valley gas explosion back in 2018 now, I think. We do a lot of OPM services, and I could list a few a little further down in this presentation. We also have environmental services. We have asset management, GIS, planning, stormwater, traffic, and certainly wastewater is one of the biggest service line that we provide. This is us. This is the group that we're proposing for this project. I am a senior principal. I'll be the client manager for this project. Andrew is a senior project engineer. We both professional engineers, and we also MCPPO certified with the state of Massachusetts. Bruce Dyer is the senior resident rep that Chris had talked about. Bruce has been with us since 2014, and as I mentioned, he's the real deal. He's the guy that knows construction in and out. He's there as much as you need him to be, very knowledgeable, and he doesn't take any shortcuts whatsoever. Unfortunately, Bruce couldn't make it here today because he has a doctor's appointment at 4 and he couldn't move it. On the wastewater side, and I think that's where your interest is here today, some of the stuff that we do a lot of collection and conveyance. The collection system, gravity sewer, sewer force mains, sewer pump stations, prepackaged pump stations, big pump stations. We're going to highlight one of them here today in the presentation, or 2 perhaps. We do comprehensive wastewater management plans. We do NIPD's permitting, and then wastewater treatment plants, and of course OPM services, and we'll highlight a bunch. This is a snapshot of the clients that we service. By the way, probably about 90% of our work is municipal. Maybe less than 10% is private and commercial. But again, we work from Nantucket, Provincetown, all the way to Western Massachusetts. And these are the communities that we had completed wastewater projects in, substantial ones. On the OPM side of things, obviously we primarily a design firm, but we also do OPM services. So we have the experience in both. We sit across from OPM, and we have designers who sit across from us. This is a matrix that kind of summarizes what the OPM's roles and responsibilities on this project, and I could really go through every single one of them, but I think the next slide kind of summarizes pretty much the OPM services. So basically, you get on board, and the next order of business to get the designer selection, and that is a process. that you advertise for and you interview. You make recommendations to the towns to, which designer would be best suited for this type of application, for this type of project. And then throughout the process, you go through the design document, you review the milestone submissions, 25%, 50%, 60, 75, 90, and 100. And along the way, you look at the cost estimate and you say, okay, you want a reality check on the cost, and especially today in light of COVID and material supplies and, lack of material supply, if you will. And you meet with the town and the designer along the way, along these milestones. The next phase would be the procurement and the bidding. So there is a pre-qualification for large projects. If you're talking $10 million or more, you have the pre-qualification for file sub-bids and bidders as well, and general contractors. During the construction phase, the OPM basically manages the construction on behalf of the owner. So you have the designer on board reviewing shop drawing submittals. The OPM may have the construction oversight as well, and then basically looking at finances and looking who's responsible for what, and working on behalf of the owner. The next phase of this, once construction is completed, you have the closeout and the move-in phase. So you build a water treatment plant, a wastewater treatment plant, now you gotta commission it, and you gotta make sure it's functional. And the OPM plays a big role in this to make sure these things are done right before the owner moves in. And then there's a post-construction. Post-construction phase could be, the punch list, DCAM, operation assistance, could be any of these things. As we speak today, we're the OPM on numerous water and wastewater treatment plants, and I'm going to highlight only a handful. This is a Tri-Town regional water treatment plant for Braintree, Randolph, and Holbrook. It's a 12.5 MGD water treatment plant. It's been years in the making, but finally it's about 90% design. It has some PFAS issues, and it really provides services for about 80,000 residents in the area. It's supporting Tri-Town. The designer is AECOM, and then we're the OPM. We assisted the board of Tri-Town with planning, permitting, public outreach, funding support, bidding assistance, and again, this week, we reviewed the 90% submission by AECOM, and the construction is expected to begin in 2022. What's not highlighted here, we have a wastewater treatment plant in the town of Bridgewater that we're serving as the OPM on. It is currently in design, and the designer is Stantec. We're about 75% complete. There is a water treatment plant that we are also the OPM for the town of Bridgewater, and that is also designed by Stantec. It's in construction today. We have Medway, Medfield, a whole lot of these projects are in the works today. Provincetown, this kind of dates back to 15 years when I joined the company. I'm not really involved with this, but our company is serving as the OPM on this multi-phase project in Provincetown, Massachusetts. And phase 1 was about 16 all the way to phase 5, 5B, and 5A and 5B, which they're projected to be in 2021, 2022. This is a project on the North Shore of Massachusetts, Newburyport. Very delicate location, Newburyport, odor control within the downtown. This was completed with in a fast-paced type of construction. And the key here was the operator safety, and then, of course, the abutters and the residents and how they deal with odor from a wastewater treatment plant. Newburyport is, I was involved in designing the foundation for this. It was supported on heel coat piles because of the soils were unsuitable, like peat and soft material below the building. As Chris mentioned early on.
That looks familiar.
That looks pretty familiar, yes. So the town of Plymouth owns and operates a 5.5-mile sewer force main that was installed in 1999 as part of the DBO. They converted their the old wastewater treatment plant to a modified pumping station right downtown by the Rock. And this ruptured just before the holidays in 2015. And we were doing work in town on the CMOM end of things, and we got called in to assist the town with assessment and the design of repairs and design of a redundant force main. So we assisted the town with the SRF program, emergency response, assessment of the existing sewer force main, the repairs. So out of the 25,000 linear feet, about 7,000 feet of that was just like Swiss cheese, like you see in that picture on the right side, was all deteriorated prematurely. There was a ductile iron pipe class 52, and we replaced that with PVC pipe and HDPE pipe. We estimated the cost at $48.2 million. Final cost was about $48 million. So we're on the good side of things by 200,000. This is I'm going to play the short video here. This kind of gives you an idea what the impact of that sewer force main was. What you see here it's the temporary bypass pipe. We strung 2 PVC pipe over land, working 7 days a week, 24/7, all the way parallel to Route 3 between Old Exit 5 and Old Exit 6, and then ran almost 10 miles of pipeline from the wastewater treatment plant to the downtown, to the pumping station. But then again, this was completed back in 2017, and both lines are, one acts like the primary line, the second one is a redundant or bypass line as needed.
I wonder if I'm in this picture. I remember every inch of that.
So here we managed, Bruce Dyer was in charge of the construction administration of this. So we managed about 5 crews working 6 days a week, maybe about 15 hours a day, because time was of the essence. The town was spending about $1 million a month on rentals alone. This is behind McDonald's on Exit 6. I'm sorry, Exit 5. Oh, 6, I'm sorry. So some of it was in the cross-country, and a lot of it was within the town right away. Impact was tremendous. I mean, wastewater was discharging into the harbor, not in the harbor, but in the cross-country, and but we were able to successfully complete this project on time and on budget. I think I should stop this, right? Okay, so this is the force main that we just mentioned in Plymouth. So the 2 lines represent the primary line and the redundant force main. We had some outside-the-box thinking about cross-connecting these lines for the purpose of maintenance. We were able to use the effluent, the clean water from the treatment plant to flush the line that is off service, just to keep it hydrated, and then move the solids from it. And then also augment the volume of the wet well in the line that is running. This is the wastewater pump station that is rated for 9.1 MGD. That was an old wastewater treatment plant. It was converted to a modified pump station. Once the force main was completed, we kind of went back and revitalized that whole station. It was almost falling apart. So we replaced 4 pumps, odor control system, grit, and the screening. We replaced the screen, and all the instrumentation and controls. Cost for this project was about $5.6 million, and duration was a little over a year. But we got caught at the end of beginning of COVID, I should say, because a lot of the equipment came from overseas, from Sweden and Germany, and then of course there was a lot of delays in delivering the equipment to the project. But nonetheless, 2020, end of 2020, this system was fully functional and operational. That is outside the station. It also went architectural rehab, facelift, changing doors, windows, roof, gutters, put brand new HVAC system and heating system, instrumentation and controls. So if you're sitting about 5 miles away, you could see what's going on here in the station. So they watch it from the wastewater treatment plant, and they be able to control things from a distance. Same thing, the town of Whitman today, as a matter of fact, next Friday, we opening bid on a 16,000 sewer force main that also ruptured in 2016, 2017. Every rupture cost the town north of 750,000. We did the assessment. This was due to external corrosion. And Andrew and I are working on this. Today we issued the last addenda, and the bids are gonna open next Friday. What we see on horizontal construction today, there's a lot of competition, a lot of contractors bidding horizontal projects, and the prices are coming in favorable. On vertical construction, it's a separate story though. 2018, we got called to Nantucket because they also had a rupture. So we've been working in Nantucket since 2018. We came in to do the assessment on a force main, one of the coldest days of the century. What you see in that middle photo there, a pipe kind of came apart, and it was on January 4th, 2018. I don't forget that date. But we came in and we did a quick turnaround assessment and repairs that lasted about 3 or 4 months to put the line back in service. And today we're designing a brand new sewer force main, which we bid last month. Robert B. Auer was the lowest bidder at $23.6 million. And this is going to construction starting in January 2022. This is the alignment of the force main. The Board of Selectmen and Sewer Department chose option 2A. Option 2A was least disruptive. It doesn't really have a whole lot of hydraulic grade changes between the point A and point B. Of course, restoration on Nantucket is super expensive. Everything costs maybe twice as much as it costs here, so we chose the shortest route to minimize impact. This is a project that we just completed in the town of Situate. It's a sewer replacement right on Cedar Point. This is both high groundwater table and tidal influence, where the water was getting into the old pipeline, and the town was treating tunnel water that it didn't have to, right? Just because of. So we came in and we used these fiberglass manholes that you see in the middle picture there. We had used them once before in Weymouth on the Fall River side of the harbor. And we're very successful doing that. And a fiberglass manhole comes in one piece. It doesn't really have any seams, doesn't have any breaks of water. It doesn't really infiltrate through there. So we completed this, and the town of Situate today is seeing instant reduction in their I&I just because the sewer is fully completed, and it's very successful. And I should say that this was just completed, a couple weeks ago with final paving. Very minimal change orders on this project. Again, these manholes come from, I think, Dallas or North Carolina. There's 2 facilities where they manufacture them and they ship them, and they really have to be exact. I mean, the clock diagram on these cannot be off by much at all, because otherwise you're committed to, one full piece of the manhole, and you can't really change in the field. Another client, the city of Framingham, now it's a city, used to be a town. We got there in 2013. We've been doing a lot of complicated sewer project, tunneling, pipe jacking under the levee, Army Corps floodgate, crossing the Sudbury River, siphons. Working today on Route 9, we did 3 phases. On Route 9 east, we did the eastbound. Now we design in the westbound section, right? In Framingham up to the Natick town line. Again, a lot of public outreach. Our work consisted of hydraulic modeling, design of sewer, force mains, pipe jacking, siphon relocation, small pump stations. We had like 6 or 7 of them that we replaced. The top photo on the left, that is the Route 9. It's all night work because it's a state DOT roadway. They wouldn't let you work. It's like a highway, so you couldn't really work during the day. It wasn't possible. Again, pump station replacements, those, some of them are prepackaged pumps. Some of them are just wet well and a dry well, and then you have a control building up above. What's not on this list today, Andrew and I are working on a sewer expansion for the town of Stoughton, Massachusetts, that we bid, and it's going to construction this month, actually. On next Monday, they starting. It's about 10,500 linear feet of gravity sewer, 6-inch force main, and 2 pump station is phased into 2 different projects. First, phase 1 is now, and then phase 2, the Board of Selectmen will have to vote on it sometimes in the future. I hope this gives you, and again, any questions you may have, be happy to answer, but I hope this gives you some sort of an idea what our capabilities are and what we do. And again, I mentioned we have, construction is a big piece of what we do here at EP. And we have a group of 15 very talented individuals, some of them professional engineers, some of them aren't. And they come from heavy construction background, and we're trying to place them in a position where they could succeed. And they'll, like we have a guy that all he does is coating for water storage tanks. That's his specialty. Him and his dad had a business in the past, so we put him specifically on water storage tanks. If your forte and your expertise in vertical construction, we put that person in where he could succeed, where he could be useful to us and the client. Same thing, horizontal construction, water, wastewater, gravity pipe, sewer force mains. We have a very successful track record in this. The last several years, knock on the wood, no complaints, nobody sued us, nobody, all we could say, we work on behalf of the client, and the common goal is to come out and have a successful project. It's good for us and good for you.
And the only thing I would add to that, as Ziad mentioned, myself, Ziad, and Bruce, we've done a fair amount of work together, and I think we're a pretty solid team. But what you see is what you get. I think honestly, it's you're not going to get we say we're gonna put us on the project. We're going to work on that project. This is who you're going to deal with on a regular basis. Between Bruce being in the field, me being in the office, Ziad managing the projects with the client. It's a really good team effort to get these projects done, and you want to be able to have a good working relationship on all levels, and keep the communication going. So, again, it's what I would just say to that is just overall, it's who with the team and who you're working with is very important.
And we all live on the South Shore. We only the 3 of us were probably about 30 minutes away from here. So.
Joe has a question.
What were your gross revenues the last calendar year?
Our gross revenue as a company?
Yes.
So gross revenue, we average in about $22 million a year.
That was the last calendar year?
This year, we haven't done them, obviously, but 2021 was, I think this year we exceeding 2020. We're slightly above 2020.
Thank you.
Do you need to use the microphone?
Yes.
Yes, Mary.
Okay. You've shown us a number of different things in terms of your experience in repairs. So have you had a great deal of experience as well in preventing the kinds of things that you had to come to repair? I mean, do you start to look at the design effect first,
So,
and then prevent any of these negative things from happening, or how do you do that?
yeah, so one thing I didn't mention, we do a lot of peer reviews. Today, I'm going to mention that the town of Franklin had retained us to do a peer review for deep sewer interceptor and 3 or 4 pump stations designed by a consulting firm, by a large consulting firm. And we just started looking into that. Peer review, like I said, we've been on the opposite side of the table, either an OPM or the designer. And I think from our experience, these projects that I showed, whether it's Whitman, Plymouth, or Nantucket, those things were built, Nantucket was built in 1930 and was rehabbed in 1984, just before we came into existence, right? So, as a company. But today, there's a standard, and then you look at what worked in the past and what's working today, right? So today, for instance, I'm going to say that based on the Plymouth experience, every force main that we're designing today is kind of bulletproof against corrosion, right? Because that seems to be the common problem there with these force mains.
And I think as OPM, one of the benefits of our position is we've been on the design side So we know what to look for as far as construction, scheduling, costs. We have multiple engineers on our staff, different backgrounds, different experiences. And then we have a number of subs as well that we'll use. So really, we're able to kind of dissect and identify problems up front, just based on our experiences and just based on, what we've seen traditionally in the field.
Great, thank you.
On one of your first slides that showed the Cape, it showed Falmouth with a big red star. Did you have something to do with the Falmouth?
No, we did not. Unfortunately, we did, and that was last 2 months ago, we came in, we submitted on the OPM for the wastewater treatment plant. We didn't get that one. That's why it's starred in red, but I couldn't remove it from this figure. But good observation, though. Thank you.
Ziad, you mentioned early in your talk, you said something about the difference between vertical and horizontal, one being lots of competitors and one not. Can you elaborate on that a
Yeah,
bit?
sure. So, we refer to horizontal construction as a pipeline, right? Water and either it's a force main or gravity sewer, a combination of things. So today, we look at vertical construction and it's more of a specialty thing than, today, like, for instance, we put Whitman out to bid and we had like 20 plant takers, right? Everybody could technically do a water or a gravity sewer project. When it gets into more complicated, more specialty work, like especially you doing a wastewater treatment plant, you're talking about, state of Massachusetts has, I think, 18 filed sub-bids and categories, right? Just on the filed sub-bids, they have 18 categories. So you have to, it is a specialty work and it's, not everybody could bid it. So in the past, I think when we started doing this business, there was a couple of companies out of Connecticut that did only water, wastewater treatment plant. You saw these guys all the time bidding on these projects. One of them now is out of business. So it is a tighter market and not a whole lot of competition. To add to it today, the cost of material and what COVID had brought, supply chain and especially stuff that comes from overseas, right? I mean, we're talking like for instance, I'm going to give you a sample. Flight pumps, they come from Sweden, right? They're manufactured in Sweden, they get shipped from Sweden. If you're dealing with process mechanical and equipment like grit removal, screening, a lot of that stuff comes from Germany. Some of it is manufactured here, right? But anything that comes from overseas today has a lot of lead time and delay associated with shipping. And therefore, when you're putting a price on a project that has vertical component, it's a lot more difficult to price it as if you're pricing a pipeline. Today, all day long, you could buy a pipe at $57 a foot, and you know what's going to take you to install on the ground, right? So that's why it's a lot easier, and you almost have a good sense of what the price is going to be on a horizontal construction versus vertical construction. And today on vertical construction, as a matter of fact, they put inflation cost, like inflation, to bid date, right? So that even you go about 6 months increment, just because the prices are going up.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for these folks? No? Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate that.
Thanks for the flashbacks to Plymouth.
I'm not sure.
Just for the record, they currently have ductile iron, is what they've had for the force main on this project, and I don't think I'm gonna wait the 15 years for it to rot. I'm doing all PVC.
Joe, can you speak up, please?
Huh?
Could you speak up? I didn't hear what you were saying.
No, I said the current design, when they come on board, had ductile iron, which, as you saw in a couple of the films, doesn't last. But I had told them to convert, on the final plans, convert all that to PVC, which I'm sure these guys would have recommended instantly. But,
So, yeah, I mean, on the ductile iron, I apologize, I don't know if I should be. Are you done, Chris?
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
mean, what happens
Go
is-
ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, nothing against ductile iron. So, you know, and usually in sewers, if the ductile iron pipe is full, hydrogen sulfide is usually not that much of an issue. Only in spots where the flow is not inside the entire pipeline, right? So if it's constantly ascending and flowing full, ductile iron pipe is a good pipe. I'm not saying that it's not. In some conditions, in some situations, you may want to consider something different, depending on the hydraulics, the type of flow that's going into the pipeline, velocities, time of retention, all of that.
Well, and the corrosivity of the soils as well. That's the other part of it too. We've seen force mains prematurely fail based on being in poor soils, so, you know, again, just something to consider.
Thank you. Can I ask the lady behind you, are you here to speak on behalf of? Okay.
It's the same.
All right, we are going to move into a discussion about, whoop,
All set.
I just have a quick question.
Mary.
Is the town, like, are you guys, are we soliciting bids for the contract? Is that like what you guys are here now doing?
No, we're still on the design stage.
Okay.
We're hoping to get out to bid.
Okay, so
But
I just
on-
wasn't sure what their role is.
On projects, generally, you have a designer, and then you have an outside project manager who works solely on the town's
Okay.
behalf. An OPM should have came in on this project a year ago and done the designer selection and went through all the processes and all the 25% review, 50% review. It's a little late in the game, but, you know, we're bringing in an
Okay,
OPM.
I was just curious.
Yeah. And then the bidding, we're hoping to get this thing bid out for the spring. We'll see what happens.
Joe, you had a question?
Basically, it was answered, but I would have said it in one sentence instead of 3 or 4. What we're doing is looking for a second engineering group to prove to us that our design is not full of flaws
Okay,
and take a participating role in our behalf with the designers, the state, the feds, everybody involved.
okay.
So this is just a technical checkpoint and a good approach.
Thank you.
Okay,
It wasn't one sentence, so I apologize.
yeah, it's pretty close.
It was a run-on sentence.
Thank you,
Yeah,
gentlemen.
exactly.
Okay, thanks for
Thank you.
coming in.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Chris, would you mind if we flip-flopped and have you next? And then
Okay,
following that, we'll do the alternate system technology discussion.
okay, basically, SRF status, there's still a pretty decent punch list from Michelle Higgins, who's in charge of the SRF program over at DEP. It's really, I think, like I showed you before, there was a few decent permits, the DOT permit. I don't know what's up with the Mass Historical. They even wrote, I don't anticipate a problem, but it's a permit that you have to wait for, and so that holds up the process. The takings and the groundwater discharge permit. The groundwater discharge permit, you know, kind of the feet were dragged on that one for quite some time, till all of a sudden it was inquired about, and there was some issues that DEP had brought up as far as groundwater mounding and this type of thing. We think they may be addressed. Unfortunately, I couldn't really report to you because our meeting with them is tomorrow.
Okay, good.
And so we're going to have a meeting with them, and that may resolve some of the issues. And as far as, it was 2 issues, the wetland area, which isn't a wetland area. It's a bog that's been inactive for almost 100 years, and the water table's probably 15 feet below the bog. That's why it's dry as a bone now. The bog stepped all the way down to Willow Bend. Started at elevation 34 and went all the way down to elevation 10. All the top ones stopped being used. They're all dry. They're upland bogs, basically. That was one part, and the other part was the groundwater modeling, which the consultant claims that his calculations prove that it's below the threshold of what DEP requires, but we're gonna flesh all that out tomorrow, and hopefully it'll be successful, and we can move on with the permit. The other one's plan revision update. They're just, I don't know, they're supposed to have them done by December. To me, it's a few days, you know, maybe a week of drafting. I don't know what's taking so long, but the plan revisions, everything pretty much I revised. They were fine with all my numbers and all my changes. There's a few other things I caught that we addressed. So that's supposed to be done by December, and actually, Brian Dudley from DEP said he's not gonna issue any permit till the plans are complete. So that's something they gotta get working on. You know, it's, I don't know why it's taking so long. But we're hoping to get that done, well, 4 weeks now, they should be done. And so that's gotta get done before the discharge permit as well. The taking status, as you all know, Tuesday I'm meeting with Summerwood residents and hopefully set their mind at ease, explain a lot of what's really going on and give them, you know, more concrete answers to what, you know, questions they've had. And hopefully we, you know, I'm hoping we'll end up all working together, the town, Summerwood and us, to get a successful project going over there that everyone's fine with, you know, and also to clean up the Mashpee River. That brings up, well, the condo project. There's Sea Oaks and Summerwood. We've gone back and forth with drafting standard operator SOP 1 and SOP 2. It's gone back and forth to the commissioners. I've done some revisions myself, sent it to town council. He cleaned things up. And so, I don't know if you want to, if everyone's happy, if you want to actually vote on these, Mike, is that what you want to do, or?
Chris, don't these belong in the Mashpee sewer overview?
The rules and regs, you mean?
Yes.
I think, yeah, I think for now I could put them in the back as an addendum, because
Okay,
I think they may be subject to change, because this is our first
understood.
shot at the condos, but yeah,
This is the way where it probably belongs.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
record keeping.
But I mean,
I'd like to make the motion, we accept SOP 1 and 2 at this time, that the sewer commission endorsed them.
Anyone second?
I'll second that.
Take a vote?
Discussion.
Any discussion? I like Joe's idea about putting it into the sewer guidelines or regs or whatever we're going to call them, when the time is right, when we're ready for it.
mhm.
I have a question. For you, Chris, is there some objection to the different systems, or is it just informational at this point?
It's informational that we have two ways to go
Right.
with the design. We can have the town install it all,
Mhm.
or we can leave a pipe there and have the residents install it. So that's basically, in a nutshell, that's what it is. If we install it, this outlines what's gonna happen, who's responsible for what, and who's paying for what.
I just had one question. When I looked at that originally, in the original review, I inserted the word no charge. What do you call it? Access, not access.
Easement over the
Easement.
property.
Because some people who don't understand it all can stand up and say, well, I didn't want him to do it for nothing.
Hmm.
You know, I wanted you paid for that and get all of that. What happened when you ran that by legal?
Well, legal wanted to leave the option open and just said it's acquire rights of access, whether it's
Okay.
hopefully done friendly.
Yeah.
If
Well, there'd be no
We had
sense in
to.
doing it in an unfriendly manner.
Well, you could,
I
actually.
know we could, but there'd be
But-
no sense in it. We'd just
No.
leave them high and dry until they realized the town was gonna do it basically for nothing
Yeah.
compared to the way they're gonna have to do it if they don't cooperate.
I mean, I'm hoping after Tuesday night, the discussion goes well. Everyone understands what, I'll let them know what it's gonna cost them, which is really the bottom line.
Well, isn't this
And-
format also done legally because we need this as part of the formal rules and regulation,
Yeah,
making it clear that it's the same from everyone, even a small homeowner on Pawtucket Road.
yeah,
It's exactly the same. The town's doing the same for them as someone who is a homeowner in town that just happens to live in a condominium.
and I think it's good to have this as an official document,
So we can use it
so
with
we
the other
can go in, because I
condominiums.
actually already sent it out to Summerwood residents after we went through everything, knowing that I had a feeling that the blessing was gonna come, but it wasn't gonna come till tonight. But I think we have to have something like this to spell out exactly how we're gonna proceed.
I think it's a very useful document.
Yeah.
It's a very useful document for public information.
No,
It's concise.
Any other comments? Okay, let's vote on it. Al, where do you stand?
I vote yes.
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 and that's for both SOP 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Just a comment, it almost seems to me like option one is the only real way to go if you are already built. If you were in the design phase of putting in a condominium someplace, you might want to consider option two, since you'd have all the work there. But to me, there really is only one sensible option.
I'm hoping that Chris can get that across to people on Tuesday.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Is somebody from the commission going with Chris on Tuesday?
Let,
What,
let's wait on that, because we've got meetings pending and at the bottom, which I'd like,
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
and that could actually, will come before adjournment and before executive session then.
yeah.
But I guess that's about it. Like I said, the meeting's coming up Tuesday with Summerwood, keep mixing them up. Sea Oaks, we're still on track. We have to get out, do a couple more borings. They haven't scheduled them yet. We're gonna actually do one while the drill rig's out there down by that wetland, because we had borings up by the plant, which are right down, upstream from that wetland, alleged wetland. And the borings there had water table 15 feet below, and they're up gradient, so if anything, the table would get even lower. But we're gonna, while we have the drill rig out there, we're gonna pop another hole to see what it is close by, just to prove it's an upland wetland, an upland bog, rather.
Good move.
And hopefully the end result will be that we can put far more water in the ground than the .12.
Right.
Yeah, the thought is, if that proves to be the case, we're gonna, once the permit's almost had, gonna go back and try to amend it to include
Well,
more.
that's the state's procedure.
Yeah, we'll go
They
back.
give you the minimum up front until you got clean water to drop in. And then they take another reading.
So that's the hope there, but, I guess that's about it.
Okay, let's,
Mike?
oh,
I-
sorry,
I have
Ken.
No, I have a question for Chris. I don't know if this is appropriate time for it, but back in September, you sent some information to us on peer-reviewed proposals.
Yeah.
Tie-in bond and Weston Sampson. Is that still pending, or is that off the table, or? what
No,
are
I
we-
was
what are we-
gonna, I thought it would be more appropriate for the OPM to be the one reviewing
Okay.
the plans, just because he's gotta get on board anyway.
I agree, so this is not an issue anymore?
No,
Okay. Done.
Good.
Thank you.
Good point, Ken.
Yeah.
Well, we had talked about it, but Chris had left early that meeting, and then we never completed our discussion, so.
Yeah, this one's gonna be,
I would agree with you 100%. If you're gonna use one, just go with one.
and they're gonna do a much more thorough review. A couple of the reviews, even the Weston and Sampson one was kind of like from this high up instead of right down on the ground. And, you know, they may find different ways to do things that may be more efficient or more cost efficient. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
And they're gonna cover everything you need.
Yeah,
That's all I wanted to hear, yes.
yeah. Yeah, the designer stays on, the OPM.
Right, no, I understand that. I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure they're gonna do everything you need them to
Yeah.
do for you.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, alternate system technology, or as they're frequently called, IA, Innovative and Alternative Systems. I don't know if we're going to take a formal position on this, but that's something we should discuss, because it's getting a lot of press all around the Cape, several different kinds of systems. Falmouth, I think, is even considering a bylaw requiring certain homes to utilize them. What are our thoughts on it? I know Joe's got thoughts on it.
Okay, Joe, take it away.
Joe?
Well, this is another one of those red herrings, because there is nothing that's legally acceptable,
Right.
all right? So understand that as the primary position we have, because we have to recommend anything that is legal, and this isn't legal. There is a great possibility that the guy out in Nantucket, I forgot his name, Red X or, no,
Nitrex?
Nitrex. He has a system. Now, what that system is a miniature sewer processing plant. All right? It's not simple, it's not a cure-all, it's just a miniature plant. On a 100 by 100-foot lot, which a big piece of this town is surveyed on, you have now a septic tank and a leaching field, and usually a driveway, and a foundation under the house, and a deck in the backyard. What you have to do is go in and basically dig a hole that's as big as your septic tank would be, and put it, if you can, between the septic tank and the leaching bed. Then it's a system which has to have electricity to create a bubble environment in it. And in some cases of their applications, they've had to put heaters in them to make sure they'd work. And in another case, they had to put a pump in to make sure it worked. All right? All of that is why it is not a licensed system. It is not a gravity flow system. It's not foolproof. It has to be checked at least twice a year. And you have to go in and change the bed in it, which includes wood chips. That has to be maintained so that it works. It's a tremendous advance over other IA systems, but it's not legal, and it only reduced it by about half. It's nowhere near the 3 milligrams per liter that you get out of a sewer system. That is why we're installing sewer systems. We cannot, if we replaced every Title V system in town with this system, and they all worked perfectly, we can't get to the TMDLs we need.
Right.
Now, in an outlying area, or in a swamp that's so far away from the road and down below grade, that is not having a lot of impact on our environment anyway, someone could put one of these in if they want. To say they can go into a low area like where I live, and there's 60 houses in there that are only 3 feet above the tide, to have us put it in because we're bordering within 300 feet of the waterway, we can't even get them in the ground because you dig down 6 feet and you're in water.
Right.
Okay? So that's another area. All of these houses that are close to the water, they're so low, they can't put things in the ground. This is a red herring. It is well-intended, and I wish it was true. If I could replace my system today with one that worked, like
the sewer system works and gets a 3 milligram output, I'd do it in a minute. But they don't exist. That's the engineering point of view, and I think it's the view we should maintain until someone does come along with a system that is effective, cost-effective to the owner. By the way, it costs you about 20 grand to put this in, 15 to 20 grand. The day that comes around, I'll be the first to put one in the ground. It's not here.
Okay. Just a little background for people. The current regulations for testing these systems are that in order to get public approval for public use, they have to have 50 examples of this system around in the ground, and they have to have been tested for 3 years, and then they will get public approval if, and only if, they perform as advertised. So it's an ordeal, and historically, I used to run this, the IA system as part of the wastewater program. They frequently didn't work. They frequently did not work as advertised in terms of nitrogen removal. And as Joe pointed out, they required a lot of maintenance, almost all of them. And that maintenance wasn't there. In fact, the state at one point considered, along with approval, mandating that there be a specified entity to do maintenance on these however many times per year it was necessary. That never happened. So I'm with Joe on this completely.
Well, if I mirror, basically, Joe, you did a fantastic summary of the fact that, A, it doesn't meet the standards that we want, and 2, it requires a lot of maintenance that people are probably not going to do. So we're spending a lot of money, even if it works up to its specifications, we're only halfway there. It just seems like it would go in the wrong way.
I think, oh, Ann.
Yeah, I think Joe's summary was really good. I asked Mike for us to talk about this just because, as Joe knows, there has been a lot of conversation going on among people who are looking at this and thinking that it poses an alternative, it might pose an alternative to a sewer system. And I think, you know, in a larger sense, we need to express to people that Mashpee has decided to take a municipal approach to managing our water, to trying to clear up the pollution in our rivers and ponds and streams, and to manage wastewater townwide, not backyard by backyard, which has been the old system and really isn't delivering for us. So Joe's points about this is not ready for prime time, it hasn't been approved. When a system like this is being tested, it's being done under optimal conditions. There are people watching it, paying close attention to it, which once you plant it in your backyard, people are far less likely to do. So I think a lot of what Joe said is great, and I think it would be a good idea for us to just formulate a brief document that we could share with people when they ask about the merits of a system like this at this stage.
Ken, have you got any thoughts
Yes.
Um,
You want me to share them with you?
about this?
Yeah, I understand what Joe's saying, I agree with him 100%, and not to be negative, but you know how homeowners are. You're gonna put a system in, day one, it's gonna work beautifully. It's gonna go, and then they're gonna forget about it. And then 5 years down the road, or 4 years, or 3, or whatever, when you're supposed to be doing the regular maintenance, you're supposed to be upkeeping it, it's not gonna get done. And it's gonna fall and disrepair, and it's gonna be just a septic tank like we already have. You know, you could read a report that came out in the newspaper through the town recently about septic tanks and how often people are really pumping septic tanks. I mean, they say you should do it every 3 years or so. People aren't doing it. They're letting them go 10, 15 years. So if they can't pump a septic tank for $300, how are they gonna maintain a system that's gonna cost them, I think, a lot more, as Joe was alluding with the pumps, the air blowers, the
Electricity.
Yeah.
Chips you gotta replace and all that, so, I mean, that's my opinion on it, that it's just gonna create, you think you're gonna solve the problem, and it's not.
Well, how can we even suggest a system that isn't approved by the state? I mean,
We can't, really. And I think the average removal for those systems that are approved brings nitrogen down to 19.
yeah.
And in a lot of cases, that's just not enough.
Right.
Most cases, that's just not enough. Meredith, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, well, yes, I do. I'm listening to what you all have to say, and I agree with the conclusion you're coming to. I agree with the conclusion that you're coming to. It makes sense. I mean, first of all, if it's not approved by the state, and second of all, the points that you're making about backyard by backyard was a very good sort of illustration of where we are at now, as
Right.
opposed to, and again, what Ken also said, is how often are people paying attention to their maintenance? So I totally agree with what's being said.
Okay, Ann suggested that we put together maybe it can be SOP number 3. Do people agree that we need to do that, or that we should do that?
Yes, I think we should.
We should have a standardized response because
Exactly.
sure as shooting, they're going to be asking.
I'm getting asked now,
Really?
yeah, frequently, because there is a cadre of people in town who are very focused on water, and they're reading about this in the newspaper, and they're being invited to demonstrations in Barnstable, and coming back impressed with what they're seeing and wondering, where do we stand? You know, we're in the midst of this project. So I think it would be useful for us to just have a statement that says, this is how we see it.
Now, we can't stop someone from doing this, correct? I mean, if
That's
someone
correct.
wants to
If you
do
want to
it,
put one in, you can put one in.
it's
But when
just,
we lay the sewer down by your
You're gonna
street,
have to
you're
connect.
going to have to hook into
That's
the
right.
sewer.
Right.
Because even with the installation of it, as it was just said, it reduces it by about half.
Right.
If you don't have any IA in there, you're probably throwing out 30-something milligrams per liter of nitrogen. It gets down to 19, which is about half. We're taking it down to 3, and that's the only way we can get enough nitrogen out of the environment to stop the pollution. They will not stop the pollution if every house in town was on one of these systems.
That's right.
That's the point that has to be made.
Right, it's not a matter of saying to someone, you can't do it. It's a question of why are we advocating a sewer system as opposed to what people are hearing about potential new technologies. And I just think we need to have some sort of an answer because we're the body that answers to that.
I have just one more comment, is that some of the questions that have come up from people who are on both Mashpee and Wakeby Lake are very concerned about what's going to happen in the future, especially with the houses that are down these very deep, steep hills, and how then the system is going to work to get the houses pumped out and then get up to the sewer, to the street. And I think that that's one reason why people were looking at alternatives, because they think, well, we won't even really be considered because we're too complex. And I think that's another question that we may need to be able to address in the future.
I mean, they'd be on pump systems.
Well, I think
Can you speak
it comes
into the
back to
mic,
we
Chris?
need to have a response at some point to address the questions that may be coming up, and because this technology is available, and people say, oh, this is the solution then, when it's not.
I mean, the next place we're going is there's Phase 2 that we discussed and outlined that's going to go up near the ponds. And I been looking at a lot of the topography in the area, and there is a lot of these lots that are really long and
And
down by
deep.
the ponds. But they'd end up with an environmental one pump, and it only runs like an 1.5 inch, 1.25 inch line. It's a very small line, so it's just like laying a water line. And that's what they'd end up having to do. Some of them are pretty long, and it would cost some money. And some might be happy just to stay on their system. I mean, I think we'll have to look at that when the time comes, but there are a bunch of these lots that are along some of the lakes that are just really long, 1,000-foot long lots, and they have to pump it. And the grinder pumps can handle that. I mean, they can pump 100 feet ahead at a mile. I mean, they can handle that. It's not a problem. It's the installation cost might be a little higher, but it's just laying pipe. It's just like laying a real long water line.
That's already included in our plan now, Melissa,
Okay.
that if you're below grade, the
Yeah.
town is gonna give you the pump.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay.
Can someone make a motion that the commission compile a document, a public outreach document on IA systems?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Can we have a discussion?
Any more
Can we have a
discussion?
discussion first?
Yeah, discussion.
Joe raised his hand first.
Any document that doesn't take a very realistic approach to the fact that they don't work is going to be not serving. That's my only caution.
Well, we would definitely have a review process to make sure that it was accomplishing something, otherwise there's no point.
Right. But then you see you're putting out something that still gives credence to it. And you can either ignore something and hope it goes away, which in this case, I don't think it will. So we have to address it and, just address it carefully that says when something better comes down the road, we're gonna do the best. And that's what you have with the sewer system. You don't have it with these. You know.
Okay? Ken?
Yeah, I would echo that a little bit stronger. I think whatever we do put in writing, you gotta be very carefully legally, that people don't come after you as the sewer commissioner of the town. Anything we do put in writing before we adopt it should be reviewed by Chris, town manager, and town council, just to make sure it covers the proper basis. Highlight that, Chris, huh?
Yeah,
Give you
that's
more
how we
work.
did all the mailings and all, and the town council adds a lot. He,
Sure.
he's a much better writer than I am, and he kind of has a way of, putting the final code on it and doing a good job with it, so.
And I don't know if you even want to go to the select board, but that's up to you, Mike.
Really, what you're asking for is a position paper. It's our position that,
Yep.
It's just informational. From what we know today,
There's one other point, too. There's gonna be a big backfire, because this town forced people to put in IA systems for the last 10 years or so. If you built in my neighborhood in the last 10 years, you had to put in an IA system. My neighbors want to know why the town was so stupid about it. And I say it was just state of the art. It was the best they had at the time,
Right.
They really, it was meant to be the right thing, not just a town ordinance, because it was an improvement. But they're insignificant. And my neighbors that have them continually complain about the fact that someone does come by and test it, and then they have to clean it out every couple of years. And that's not even the multi-tank system that it comes down to 50%. Their decrease was 10% or something. So there'll be a little backlash about the town having mandated IAs previously. Maybe we could make a statement in it that says, at the time, it was better than nothing. And now we realize that even the newer ones that are being touted today only can get down to about half of what we need to meet the TMDLs.
Right.
And then you have to explain what TMDLs are.
Okay, let's take a vote.
yeah, we were voting.
Al, what are you thinking?
I think we need to publish something.
Okay. Ken?
Yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Ann, who has a better use of language than I do. Either that, or I'll have to have my wife check it 9 times before I give it to Ann.
I was gonna, I don't know, I was gonna suggest that you do it, Joe.
I draft something,
You drafted a draft for us to review.
by the time my wife gets through with it, you won't have anything to review. She's a tech writer. She has spent all her life dealing with attorneys.
That's good. I
Yeah.
think it would be,
I would say that this document is as much about communication as it is technology,
Right.
right?
Oh, definitely.
Well, why don't Joe put your thoughts in a summary and then pass it
Yeah,
on to
To
Ann?
polish, yeah.
And Ann will then do the communication part of it,
that sounds good.
since she's the clerk.
Is everybody okay with that? Joe, are you okay with that?
The
Come
ways
on.
that Duan was gonna do that to me, and I was nice. I didn't say, make the motion that you do it.
Okay, Joe's going to write it the first
Joe
draft.
draft.
Ann's going to
I,
take a
Fit and
look at it.
polish.
Yeah.
position.
Okay. Other items not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I have some items, and I wrote them down, but I want to make it clear that these meetings that we're talking about here are not public meetings. They're just meetings that members of the commission will participate in. And almost all of them are going to be there will be multiple meetings related to these issues. I was hoping, for example, that Joe would be our representative on the pre-qualification and bidding subcommittee, which is apparently going to start next week.
I'm waiting for the proper signatures on the contract and for, it's upstairs being, reviewed and then signed. And so I'm hoping to, get the ball rolling next week.
And I was told by Anastasia, Joe, that she would estimate a minimum of 10 hours over the next 2 months. So it's not too onerous.
Where?
I'm assuming it'll be here. Chris, what do you,
Yeah, I'd imagine it would be here.
Chris would be in on all of these, too.
Yeah, I'd be in, the OPM would be in, who's going to have a member of the commission, which you have in, and GHD, member for GHD.
Okay.
you're okay?
Yep.
And I'm asking to come to what have become the norm now on Tuesdays, meet with Gottlieb, Rodney, Wayne, Taylor, and talk about any obstacles that we foresee coming up in the next week. So I'm asking Ann to come to those Tuesday meetings.
And they are Tuesday at 11?
Tuesdays at 11.
What is the name of the meeting being held on Tuesday?
I don't know the name. It's just kind of a,
Project review meeting?
Yeah.
Ad hoc project.
It's in effect, yeah, scheduling, kind of.
and Ken,
Excuse me, what's the purpose of the meeting?
mostly to avoid roadblocks, to kind of project where we're going and avoid roadblocks, figure out what we need to do to keep moving steadily forward. Ken, I was going to ask, starting tomorrow, to work with me on the groundwater discharge permit issues. Tomorrow will be kind of the kickoff meeting for that, but we will be going beyond that in trying to get more flow allowed for discharge at the site. And Al, I'm hoping Al will participate in meetings related to Joint Base Cape Cod. The first one of which is November 8th.
Mike, what time is that meeting?
I believe it's at 1 o'clock,
1 o'clock, okay.
but we should double check that.
Yeah, I was talking to Meredith earlier about, she was gonna come in with a Q&A with me on, bring her up to speed on anything sewer related, and, so we had 2:30, possibly Monday. It may run a little, I don't think that'll run too long.
Okay,
pretty flexible into the
Yeah.
different days.
Okay, we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Mike, if this is going to be a continual thing, usually if you're going to be repeating going to the base, I used to get a little white card that you just throw that and you go through. You didn't have to call up every time you have a meeting.
Okay. Let's find out about that at this meeting.
Well, there's a form to fill out that I had to fill out, Wayne Taylor had me fill out the other day, so they can make
Right.
sure you're a safe person to go in there.
But that's like a one-shot thing.
I don't know, is that one shot, or is that gonna be every time?
Has the government signed off on the agreement with these private contractor? As far as I know, there's no decision concluded yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure
If this
what-
is still a fantasy or a red herring.
if this is just a tour, or if we're gonna discuss flow, or what it is. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. Did Andy Gottlieb set that up?
Well,
Or did they
no,
approach him?
the guy representing Converge, Matt Kennedy,
Yeah.
is the one who called Sandwich and Mashpee
Oh, okay,
to the
okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
I think he's prepared to discuss what capability they will have and when.
What's his name?
Matt Kennedy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
And the idea is looking at it
he's one of the partners in
for a
Converge.
potential source for discharge for 2E.
It all
you know.
depends on whether the government signed off and gave them the contract or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that.
According to Matt, they were scheduled to do it December 10th.
Okay.
I don't know if that'll happen, but that was the plan.
Our meeting?
No,
Or the sign off?
the sign-off from the federal government on
Yeah.
them taking ownership of the plan.
Okay, it's not even ownership, but go ahead, yeah.
Oh, no, they don't own it yet. No. Okay. Is everybody okay with their proposed assignments? Meredith. Meredith just did a really wonderful job of putting together a synopsis of cyanobacteria and what it means in terms of how it affects humans, dogs. I'm hoping she will send that around to everybody.
Okay.
I'm also hoping, well, this will be my comment. If you can shorten it a little, Meredith, so that we can do double-sided like this on one page,
Right.
one pager. That would be great.
Great,
Very nice job.
thank you.
Okay. I think at this point, Ken,
One additional comment. And I think one of the last meetings, you had asked Deborah to check into some procedures or something.
you're
and
right.
Being that she's not here on the board anymore, you may want to relook at that too.
I had asked her to look into what mechanisms were available for the homeowner
That's right.
to hopefully subsidize hooking up to the sewer
In other communities.
in other communities. What other
Particularly
communities?
Falmouth, yeah.
Who would like to do that? Meredith, would you do that?
Sure. I'd need some guidance on where to get started with it, but I'd be glad to do it.
Okay, thank you.
One other
Well,
thing, Mike,
You'll want
before
to
we
discuss it
do any
with both
executive session, was
the
your
Falmouth
Summerwood,
Sewer Department
Okay.
and the Barnstable Sewer Department, because they're
did
the
you
two
pick someone
operating
to go
sites
Tuesday night?
that have gone through this before.
I thought we'd do that in
And you-
executive.
You will
Oh,
find
okay, okay.
that Chatham is also viable. Chatham gave us the rules and regulations. And if you don't have a copy of that, I'll get one to you. But it's covered in the sewer rules and regulation draft for Mashpee already.
And the other thing to point out is, when you connect to sewer, you get a tax write-off. I think
Yes.
it's a $5,000 tax write-off you can take over 2 years,
Right.
but you get a tax write-off. And when I was running an active sewer system before, people would tie in, then here come tax time, and their accountants would send them to me. I'd write a letter saying on such and such a date, this house was tied into municipal sewer, and they'd include that in their tax returns and get a write-off. So there's, $5,000 write-off, that's
Right.
$1,800, $1,700. If you're,
That's a significant plus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's the case, it should be.
Yeah.
There's one other issue that we should remind everybody. The town of Mashpee, after we lay the pipe, and it's running down your street, and they leave a stub in your front yard, you hire someone to come in and, hook up, and you do so within a time period. It was set at 1 year in Falmouth and Chatham. So that's in our SOP. We've got to set that time period. The Department of Health is the enforcement agency that sends each person, when the pipe's in the ground in front of their house, a note that says, starting today, you have 12 months to tie in, and that's it. They're the enforcement agency. So just keeping all that in mind when somebody asks you a question, yeah, that's the way it is.
I'm hoping everybody can come to this meeting on the 8th at 6:30. I sent a note around to everybody. It's going to be a meeting of all the department heads,
Select board?
select board, department heads, talking about our program, talking about getting sewers into the ground in Mashpee. I think it'll be interesting and a good idea.
Next Monday.
Next Monday, 6:30, in this room.
And I think since that was advertised as a joint meeting,
Yes, it is.
Yep.
you can have a full board.
Yep. Oh, yeah, everybody should come if they come,
So
if they
it's
can.
advertised.
Okay, we're going to go into, actually, I'm going to ask Ann to
Yes, okay.
read something into the record.
I move that the commission go into executive session pursuant to GLC 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss a matter of ongoing litigation between the town and the Conservation Law Foundation, where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town. The Sewer Commission will not reconvene in open session when we are finished.
Okay, so we're going to have to ask people in the audience to depart.
Do we need other people to second and approve?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you.